Hi there, welcome back. So this next segment is going to focus on those steps that would help us become more balanced. It's never too late to learn this. If you're just learning how to navigate new life as a parent of a child with disability, or if you just feel overwhelmed. Okay, so I'm going to give you an analogy. We're kind of trying to stick to analogy of the journey. Okay. When I first did this presentation, I had so many different analogies, don't pour with an empty cup and all. So I needed to kind of make them all, blend them into the journey. So here's a car. So using the wheels in a car for this analogy, I think we can all agree when we go about town, something short of round, it can be a very bumpy ride. Loosely speaking, this bumpy ride can affect not only our own well-being, but everyone around us, or at least those in the car with us taking this journey. Maybe those crossing our path, our friends, family, workmates, classmates, those in the service industry of our frequently visited spots, and they can all be affected by our full or flat wheel. And to continue with this analogy, it makes it difficult to steer straight. You may even have a wreck, causing you to not reach your destination. Okay? So this brings us to an activity. And if we were in person, I would be handing out paper and very bright colored crayons or markers and stickers. But we are doing this online. So I'm going to actually share some virtual options as well. But those tires are your wheel of life. If you were to create a wheel of your own life, you would want it to be balanced. I'm including in the resources a link to a blank copy of this wheel on your resource page for you to follow along as we dig in to each of the factors. But I've also included links to access some really cool online wheels where you can just kind of click through the questions. Pretty cool. There's even a Tony Robbins, I believe that's his name, right? So it would start like this. If you were doing this in person, again, it would be totally be an arts and craft project. But you would look at your blanks on your sections, your sectors, I've heard them called both, and you would think about where you fall for these. And these read health, finance, family, fun, love, career, personal growth, and environment of life, I believe. I'm not sure what that one is. But I've also included a blank one because there might be other sections that mean more to you. So it's really what you feel would best identify that factor of your life. So each section can be what you feel is the most important part of your life. Okay? And then, so now think about the ideal situation, really ideal for each of these aspects, and consider it as your maximum score of 10. Okay? Then I want you to focus on your current situation and compare it to what you have defined as the 10 for you. Now I want you to imagine facts and present concrete experiences. So I'm going to go around the circle and just kind of give a little definition for each. So for career, business, even studies, the name of this segment depends on what is applicable to you. If you're an employee, career, business, an entrepreneur, for students studying. And this is considered a crucial segment as work and study makes up a big portion of our waking lives. There's also money and finance. How are you doing in your finances? Then health, your physical health, as well as your lifestyle, your emotional health, your diet, sleep, rest, and exercise can also fall under here. Then I also had social life and friends and family grouped together. Maybe you might prefer to split these up into social life and friends separate. How are you doing socially? Do you have friends? Do you have a positive, like-minded friend whom you can talk to about anything? Your relationship with your friends and family members. Next is love or romance, significant other. If you're in a relationship, this represents your satisfaction with the relationship. But if you're single, it represents the amount of love you feel in your life and how vibrant you're living your life as a single person. So just because you're single doesn't mean that you are automatically getting a 0 out of 10. No, not by any means. Similar to just because you're with someone doesn't mean that you will get a 10 out of 10. A single person can rate him or herself higher, just as someone in a relationship can rate him or herself lower. Then fun and recreation, whether you have the space to explore your hobbies and interests outside of work. Contribution was an interesting one that I had not thought of, and how active you are in the community. How much are you giving back? And this goes back to, do you feel like you're helping others, even if it's with your story? And it can mean also how you're caring for the world and environment. Social causes fall under here. Then there's personal growth, also spirituality, and these can be broken down into different segments as well. Your connection with the universe and your higher self can fall under this. Contrary to common belief, this is not just, doesn't only have to do with religion. How connected are you with the spiritual aspect of life? Self-image, not listed in this circle, but I thought it was a good one to add. Your self-image, this includes your body image and self-confidence. So I've got several Wheel of Life assessment tools that I have included in the resources, and you're probably opening them up right now as you're viewing, as I put everything together in a nice little package. So feel free to play around with those. Remember, each person is unique. There's no right or wrong wheel response, and it will vary depending on age and stage of life. Consider the wheel you have created a resource for feedback. And here's an example of one that was completed that kind of gives you the idea of where this person needs to maybe find some more support or work on that part, work on those segments. And, feedback is something we can choose to use or ignore. It's really, it's, can Tom Cruise or Mario Andretti, ride their race car using your wheel? There's always opportunities to help, especially if you feel stressed. There's, this is an opportunity to really look at this and see where you can find some more natural supports. And this is, I'll just let you look at that one so you can see if you are rocking and rolling, then yes. Otherwise, you might want to take advantage of these tools. So it's not my intention to upset anyone today, but I do want to share that there is a strong body of research that has identified the burdens associated with caregiver stress. And I'm going to give you some examples of each of the next slides. But this is why we want to build more balance. There are areas we can try to build up so we can drive straight. And some of those fall under time deficits, emotional strain, health problems, and financial burdens. So let's dig in a little bit. Time. We as parents set very high expectations for ourselves. Often, we become that becomes one of the biggest stressors. And we feel as though our child's success or failure depends exclusively on us. And at times it feels like the clock is running to get them to where they need to be developmentally or medically. And we worry about the future. I know I do. What does the future hold for my child who's just become a man? Will he be a productive and independent individual? Will the manner for which I raise him affect his final income, never mind financial, and placement in life? And will I be able to help him overcome his outbursts? He still has some outbursts before he's too big to handle. The next one is emotional strain, and there's two different kinds. There's internal stressors and external stressors. And the internal stressors might include self-blame. Again, parents may feel guilty associated with a disability or chronic illness. They might wonder to what degree they're to blame for the illness, if it's genetic. Shouldering the blame and feeling a failure. I know, with my son with autism, the first thing the doctor asks is do you have autism in your family? And that's hard. When behavioral issues occur, that parent, that does not approve of, they may be unable to discipline without feeling even more guilt. And then there's a confusion and pain, especially if they don't attain a loving relationship with a child. Some illnesses and disabilities are not conducive to warmth and closeness, and parents want so much to have this kind of relationship with their child. Depending on what condition the child has, it may be necessary to adjust your expectations and how this relationship will be framed. And then there's other people's perception. Thinking that other parents are looking at you and that they think you're the cause of the problem. And this is really kind of an expression of self-blame as well. But some parents either consciously or subconsciously come to the belief that other people hold them responsible for their child's illness. And this is very rarely true, but parents may harbor these feelings. The next one is the external stressors. That can be sibling resentment, for one. Brothers and sisters of a child with a chronic disability or illness may feel neglected and angry that mom and dad spend more time with their ill sibling. They may later feel shame or feeling guilty. There's also difficult behavior. Certain types of disabilities are characterized by behavior that is not always what parents would want to see in their child. And when parents are unable to effectively discipline or correct this behavior, it may exacerbate and become chronic in nature. There's also conflict between parents. There are times when parents argue on how to care for a child. Some parents are differing ideas on how to handle and nurture a child. Are we giving in too much? Am I being too strict? Some may even deny that a problem exists. Struggle for both as they try to understand and accept how their relationship is evolving because of the stresses of caregiving. There's also appropriate services. Trying to find and obtain professional services appropriate for the child who will be the best suited to help with the child. And by understanding their own abilities and limitations, parents will be much better able to determine when they need support, and hopefully that they can afford the support. That's a whole financial issue that we'll talk about soon. There's also school placement. Where will the child have the best chance of becoming educated and independent? What services are offered in these schools for development and growth? And finding a school with appropriate facilities and staff can be a difficult process. Educating other family members and outsiders as well, educating them about your child's disability, that can be stressful, especially if there's pushback or denial. But this education is crucial for others who may not understand exactly what the child is experiencing or how to deal with the situation. Next is health problems. And I'm talking about mom and dad health problems. So not only do you have all these stressors about the potential to cause health problems, but having an additional health problem on top of what you already are dealing with is its own stress. And observational studies that have shown increased levels of stress, distress, emotional problems, and depression among caregivers of children with health problems. Things like back pain. 70% of mothers of children with physical disabilities have lower back pain. That makes sense. Migraines, headaches, given. Higher incidence of migraine headaches and gastrointestinal ulcers and greater overall distress. And then good old anxiety, right? Frustration. Negative impact on caregiver health can cause added anxiety. Sharing the burden, worrying about the future. Whole mental health component. And then here's the financial burden. Medical bills can quickly become too much to handle, and additional care and services for the child, doctor visits, and hospitalizations all add up to what may be an already overburdened household budget. We are fortunate, our family is, to have good health insurance today, but it wasn't always like that until, I think, 2009. My son had just turned 7. Autism wasn't even covered by any insurance, which meant we paid for speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, behavioral therapy out of pocket. So yeah, a lot of burden there. Any additional ones? We talked about parent conflict, team services. Again, this is more of a slide that I would do if we were in person and I'd have a big whiteboard and we'd be writing things up. But I am also including a resource document that has additional stressors because there's a long list. And it robs your energy, really. And it does affect your health. So, like I was saying, I edited this a little bit because I was getting a little crazy with analogies. But just like you would say, you cannot pour from an empty glass. This is a slide I came up with. You can't get there on a flat tire. Right? That's more than flat. It's like off the rails. You can't ignore these stressors. In the end, they will affect your well-being. Maybe not right now, but it will catch up to you. And the damage. Untreated caregiver burnout can lead to an inability to function in everyday life. Okay? It may also escalate into life-threatening situations for the person with a disability and possibly other family members. Caregivers need loving support from friends and family. So stay tuned for our next segment where we will talk about some strategies and those tips to help relieve that stress. Thanks.